Hello guys, Javad is here and we are here with the second session of free architectural course. If you haven't watched the first session, make sure to check it. I will put the playlist link in the description and also I will put the link in here. So make sure to check the first session to know the basics of Revit and the basic concepts that you need to start learning Revit. But after creating our project in Revit, now we are good to go to know more about the user interface and know everything and know the basics and the fundamentals for Revit. First of all, after creation of first project, you will get something like this. If you don't have these two windows in here, don't panic. You can easily bring them back with right click and then click on project browser and then click on properties. You will have those windows, or you can go to the view tab and in the Windows panel in the user interface make sure to both of them are checked and you can see them. If you are seeing something like this, don't panic again. These are portable, you can move them anywhere you want. Personally, I will put them something like this. Okay, that's great. Now let me make them bigger to see them. You can make them bigger very easily like this. And then now let's know some basics about here. When we are in this window and we are in architecture tab, we have different options. We have a status bar in here which will show you the keyword or the buttons that you can press to run different kinds of action. And there is no command line in here, so don't look for it. It's not AutoCAD. And then we have some options in here that you can we have some options in here that you will see the buttons that and the options that you can change the visual style, for example between hidden line, wireframe, and those kind of things. You can turn on and turn off the shadows and those kind of things that we'll learn them gradually in this course. And then we have selection toggles that will help you in selection. For example, you can select items by face and those kind of things. We will learn them too. And then we have a quick access toolbar in here. By default, this is in here, but you can bring it down easily by clicking on this arrow, and then you can click on it and you can switch between these two parts in here. And then when you activate a tool in Revit, you will see something like this. This is option bar in here that will give you some instance options and instance settings for the tool that you are using it. So it's not a fix for every tool that you see. So that's the thing that in here. And then we have these two great windows in our project, which is properties and project browser. These are heart and mind of the Revit. When you don't have them, we can simply say that you can work with Revit without them. The properties part is the part that you will see obviously the properties and information about a tool or the thing that you use, for example, and this is dynamic. This is not the same for every thing that you use. For example, when we are in a view, we are in plan, you will see the options of this view or this plan. But when you, for example, activate and you don't need to learn it, we will learn the walls. But when you, for example, create a wall and select it, you will get completely different properties for this in comparison with the other tools. So it's unique for any object that you have or any family and any element you have in model. But we have another thing in here. I'm not going to make it really complex. We will learn it step by step in this course. And then we have our project browser, which is a data tree of your project. For example, in each project you have different views. You have floor plans, ceiling plans, elevations. After that we will have sections, we will have legends, schedules, and sheets, and all of them are categorized in this project browser, and you can switch between different views. For example, I go to the north part and north elevation of this project very easily, and I have all of the views in tab mode in here. If you don't want to in tab mode and you want tile views, you easily can go to the view tab, and then in here we have tab views and tile views. Very easily you can divide your working session and working bench to these great tile views. And the shortcuts for these two options are TW and WT. WT for tile views and TW for tile views. After learning the basic concepts of user interface of Revit, now I want to teach you how to navigate in Revit. For navigating between views, obviously you can use project browser, and if you have that open, if you have that view open, you can switch between them in your tab-based views in here. And then, for example, let's go to 3D. To go to 3D for the first time, you don't find it in here. You need to click on this home button in here. Click on this 3D icon of home in here. Or you need to go to the view tab and in here click on 3D view. And it will give you a default 3D view, and we'll discuss about other aspects of this 3D view. For example, let me put it on it is on hidden line right now, but if you would put it on wireframe, you can see through the objects, or you can put it on shaded. It will give it a color according to the material of it. But if you would put it on realistic, it will show the actual texture of the material to you for kind of a draft render. But let me put it on shaded. I work in shaded more often than other kind of methods, or in hidden line. Those are the styles that I use a lot. And then in Revit, for example, let's go to the level 1, level 2 maybe. I haven't drawn anything in level 2. I want to select the elements. To select your elements, click. You need to drag with your left mouse button. For example, you need to drag. This is not like AutoCAD. You don't need to press once in here and press second time in here. You need to hold down the left button of your mouse to select. And we have two kind of selection: the right to left box and the left to right box. The line style of this box is different too, to understand it. For example, when you go from left to right, you need to the region need to cover all of the parts of one element to be selected. But when you go right to left, the smallest intersection between this box and that element will allow you to select that element. If you want to select multiple elements, for example, you want this element and this wall in here at the same time, you can select the first one and you need to hold down the control key, and then you will have a plus sign besides of your cursor, and then you can click on the second one and the third item you want to select. If you would accidentally, for example, select this one, if you want to unselect that one, you need to hold down the shift key, and then you can unselect those. Or you can, for example, unselect those with boxes 2, with selection boxes 2. These are a kind of navigation in 2D, but in 3D, for panning, you can use from the mouse wheel button, and you can pan in your views. And then you have zoom in and zoom out. These are really easy navigations. You can do it with zoom in with your wheel again. And for rotating and rotating around, you need to hold down the shift and use the wheel button to rotate around the objects. As you can see, the pivot point of rotation right now is here, something like in here. When you rotate, it will rotate around it. But if you want to change the pivot point, you just need to select one element, and then the new pivot point will be here. Now I am rotating around the object that I've selected, not the whole model. It is really essential for bigger projects to be able to select different items and different parts of your elements, and to be able to navigate. And then we have view cube in here. that will allow you to, for example, see your model from different angles. It will be really helpful for working in 3D view. For example, you go to back and you go to elevations of it to create some, for example, sweeps and some other kind of elements on these walls or those kind of things for facade designs and those kind of work. The next thing that we want to talk is in Revit, when you select everything, it's not it will be more obvious for you when we learned wall. But before that, I need to tell you what are these dimensions that we have in here. When you have each element in Revit, when you select it, it will automatically show you some dimensions to different references. These are temporary dimension that we call them in Revit. For example, from the center of this wall to center of this wall to face of this wall is something like this. You can change the reference of this temporary dimension line very easily with selecting these points, and then you can place it in any face that you want. And then the good thing is here that you can change the dimensions. For example, let me put it on, this is on millimeters, so let me put it on 5000. This is the thing that we do. But another thing that we need to know before doing anything is how to specify our unit. To specify your unit, you can use shortcut UN, or you can go to the Manage tab, and in here you have Project Unit. In Project Unit, let me press UN again. In here, you don't need to specify all of them right now. The only thing that I need right now is length. You can go to the length bar and you can put it on anything that you like. Personally, I use meter and with 2 decimal places, and I want to see the symbol of M for it after the dimensions, and also I want to separate the tailing zeros, the zeros that doesn't help. I want to delete them too. But before that, let's see the results without these options, and we will go back in here too. Let's go to the north elevation, for example. Now we are on meter, but there is no symbol of it, or the zeros after 4 doesn't help. So I want to show the M symbol in here, and also I want to delete the zeros that doesn't help. Let's go to the length again, put the symbol on M and separate tailing zeros, and now you are good to go and you can work with it very easily. And this is the unit that we are going to use. But for example, when it is something like 420, it will show it, or it is when it is 425, it will show it. It doesn't run the number, but when the zeros doesn't help, it will delete them. And this is really helpful for having a more clean project and clean views. And the next thing that we want to know after assigning and setting the unit, now we can create some new elements in Revit. Before doing anything in Revit, you need to create levels in Revit. In any building, we have levels. For example, we have basement, we have ground floor, we have first floor, second floor, and so on, and we have roof and parapet. To create those kind of elements in Revit, first of all, you need to create your levels, and you need to specify the levels of your buildings to Revit to be able to create your walls according to them, place your objects according to them. So the first step in Revit to create your project is you need to go to one of your elevations. For example, let's go to the north elevation. It doesn't matter, you can go in any of them, it doesn't make any difference. For example, let's go to the north part, and we have 2 default elevation in here. Let's assume that we have these elevations, but we want to change them. First of all, now we want to learn how to change the elevations and to change the elevation of each level. For example, the first level that I have is basement, and this is gonna be something like, let's rename it to basement. To rename it, just double click in here and you can rename it. Let's call it, for example, basement. But the name convention need to be something like this: 0, for example, 1-basement. And I want to click on yes to change the name in project browser. And in here, if you would click on no, it just change the name in here. But this is not the thing that we want, because the management of the project will be very hard in that way. Click on yes every time, and then let's put the 0 on something like minus 3.2 meter. And for the second one, let's call it, for example, ground level or ground floor, or anything that you name it. Click on yes. But let me put the minus of 0.2 in here. This is for having a name convention, and it will sort them correctly in here from the lowest elevation, from the lowest level to the highest level of your building. For example, let me put it on 0. Now we've learned how to modify these levels, but how we can create new levels. To create new levels in your building, you need to go to the architecture tab, and in datum panel you have level, or you can use shortcut L or LL to create new levels. Let's click on level in here. This is the reminder for saving your project. You can save your project very easily. For example, let me save it on desktop. You can specify the name in here, and then in options you can specify the number of backups that you want Revit to create. For example, let me put it on 1. The 1 is great because it's the Revit backups are really annoying. It will create, for example, 20 main file, or 20 for example project file with extension of 001, 002, 00. Never open them. You need to only open them when you need backups, but other than that, don't open them. And personally, I put the backup numbers on 1. I don't need more, and click on OK. And now your project is saved. Then you will see the name of your project in here after the first time that you save. Let's go again and let's activate the level. And then after activating any tool and any thing in Revit, you will have a new panel, or it's not a new panel, but it's not a new tab, but the color will change, and we will have a slash in here and place, for example, level, place file. And this part is gonna be light green. This is the indication that will show you that you are in a tool. When you press escape, you will go. You can exit from that tool. So let's click on level again, and then we have draw panel in here. All of the creation and all of the things that will happen in here. The first mode of for level creation, but before that, the tip here that you need to be in elevations. You can create level in floor plan. That's the important tip in here. Then you can use line mode creation and pick line. Let's create, for example, with line mode. For example, the first click should be in here, and then we can change the dimension after that. So I'm not going to use temporary dimension in here. Let me put it on something like 3.3 meter or 3.2 meter, and then click the first time in here, and then bring it in here. When you will see the lock in here, click the second time, and then you can change the elevation again, or you can change the name of it very easily. For example, let me put it on first floor, and then you are good to go. This is the first way that you can create your levels, but this is not that efficient. We have more efficient way in Revit to create levels. The second way is to click on pick line in here, and then you need to specify the distance with the level that you want to select, and then you will have another level with the distance that you specified. For example, I want a level in elevation of 6.4. So I want to put the 6.4 in the offset in here, and then I hover over my mouse my cursor on the level, on the ground level, and you can see the preview of the new level that's Revit gonna create in here. And also, if you would change a little bit of your cursor, you can create that level in the minus levels, or in the below of the level that you are going to select. To create the new level, you only need to do is to select and click once on your level, and then you will have the new level and you can create it very easily. For example, the next level that I want to create is 3.3 meter higher than the level 4 that I have in here. So let's change the offset to 3, and let's hover over the cursor in here, and then we have the next level that we need. For example, let's name it to 0.404, and then second floor. Click on yes, and let's name the last one to 05-roof. Very easily. And for example, if you want, you can create another level or for your parapet and those kind of things too. And you can change the let me create a wall in here to show it better to you. The elevation of wall is not really important, but let's go to the north elevation again. For example, this is your model, and you don't need to have these long elevations. You can go in here, and we have a grip in here. Click on it and grab it. For example, in here you can do it. You can do the same thing with the tail of it. And if you want to just modify this one, unlock it from here, and then you can change the length of it manually only for this one. You can place it in here, and then it will be locked again, and when you change it, all of them will change automatically by Revit. And then we have some circumstances like this. Let me create a level, for example, with the offset of something like 30 centimeter to this. This is not the thing that we want to see. We can break these symbols in here very easily. For example, let me select this level 6 in here, zoom in, and you will have this button in here. Click on it, and it will give you an elbow for your level. Then you can control this symbol placement very easily with these two control points that you get after doing it. And then, for example, let me bring it a little bit upper, and then we have a clean level in here. The next thing that I want to mention is, for example, in some countries we don't use these symbols as default symbols, or the symbols that we want to provide our elevations and our drawings to our clients. So let's change our level symbols, and let's learn how to change the settings of these elevations. Before changing the setting for your level symbols, you need the symbol family to load it into your project. To do that, you have two ways. The first one is to go to the Insert tab and click on Load Family, and the default path for your families is in C Drive, in Program Data, in Autodesk, and then in your Revit version, for example, and then in the libraries part, in English, in annotation, and in here we have some level heads. Let me see it. We have some level head symbols. You can select all of them, and you can click on open, and it will import all of them into your project. This is the first way, but we have a second way too for this one. If it is override, click on override. I will explain the circumstances in here. This was the first way that you can import your family, but the second way, and my favorite way, you can go in that path in your computer, and then the only thing that you need to do is to just drag and drop your families in here. You just need to drag your family in the in the Revit environment, and it will load the family to your project. After loading our symbols, we need to create a new type for our levels and for our level types to be able to change their symbol. Click one of them, and in project browser, in the properties window, this is the type selector. We only have one type of these levels in here, but we can easily create a new type. To do that, click on edit type in here, and then in here we have a edit type window in here. Don't panic, it is really simple. We want to create a new type for it, so click on duplicate, and for example, let's name it TAT for TAT and test, or for example, triangle symbol. Click on OK, but it's not a magic. With just changing the name, it doesn't change to triangle. We have a symbol parameter in here. Change it to the new families that you have uploaded. For example, we have a triangle spot in here. Let me switch this from circle to triangle spot, and then click on OK, and it will change. But why the other ones didn't change? Because we created a duplicate and we created a new type of it. If you want to change the types of these levels too, you need to select them, and then you need to change the type of them to TAT triangle. Or if you are creating a new level, make sure to put the type selector on TAT triangle, and then the new levels that you create will be created in the new type of level that you created. And then we have some other options in level. Let's click on edit type. We have some other options. We have the line weights in here. In Revit, we don't have the exact line weight numbers in here. We have line weight classes. For example, we have different classes between 1 to 16, and each from 1, which is the tiniest one, and from to 16, which is a bigger or thickest line that you have. For example, let me change this to something like 4. Click on, or something like 3. Click on OK. Because why you can see the line thickness? Because we have a tool in here that you can turn it on and turn it off with TL, or you can click on in here. When it is turned off, you can see the real thickness of each line. Now it is much thicker in comparison with this first or with the one number in here. Let me put it on something like 6, which is thicker, and then you can see the difference in here. But let me put it on something like 2. That will be okay for me. And then we have some other options we have in here. We have the color of it. For example, we can change it to something like red. Click on apply, and you can see the change in here. You can change the line pattern of it to something like solid. It will be a solid line, or you can change it to center, and all of the line patterns that we have in Revit. And for this, for the last option that we have in here, we have symbol 1 and symbol 2. As you can see in here, in level appearance, we only have our level symbols in the right parts of our levels. If you would check this one, you will have the symbols in both directions, but I only want the symbols in one direction. So that was the full explanations of our levels. And also, when you create your levels, it will automatically create your views in project browser, and now you have all of the floor plans, all of the ceiling plans for each level that you created. But if you don't want, for example, if you don't need any views for level 6 and it's just a reference, you can delete them in here. It doesn't affect in actual level in here. So you can delete them in here, but don't delete them in here. When you delete them in here, it will delete all of the associated views and all of the associated elements with it. So make sure to don't delete them in here. After learning the level tool, the next thing, then the next tool, and the next datum that you need to create your building on it is our grids. You can really be careful about grids because it is better to make them precisely, because we assign our walls and those kind of things and we use them as a reference. So make sure the dimensions or grids are accurate to have an accurate project too. To create your grids in despite of levels, we need to create them in levels. We can't create them in elevations, and we need to create them in floor plans, not elevations. So go to a floor plan. It doesn't make any difference, but it is better to go the lowest floor plan you have, and then create your grids on it. To create grids, you can use shortcut GR, or you can go to the architectural tab, and in datum panel you have grid in here. Click on it, and again you have the draw panel in here, and you can create your grids very easily. For grids, you need to click twice. The first click will be the tail of your grid, and the second click will be your head of your grid. For example, let's create our first grid in here, and we want to create our next grids according to this one. I'm not going to create them by line because we have pick line in here too, like the levels. For example, the next grid is gonna be 5 meters after the first one. So click on pick line, put the offset on 5, and then just hover over your mouse in here, and then you have second grid, or the second grid. The third grid will be about 3 meters after the second one. So let's put the offset on 3, and let's create the third grid. And you can continue this process as much as you want. Click on 5. But for example, now you want to change the dimensions between the second grid and the first grid. You can select it, and with the temporary dimensions you can change it very easily. For example, let me put it on 3, and then it will add the 2 meters to this one. If you want the second one be 2, the second and the third one be 3 meters, you need to change it again, and then you need to change it for the third one too. I want to put it on 5 meters, and then you can change the dimensions with temporary dimensions line very easily too. Let's create our horizontal grid. It's the same for the horizontal lines too. Just for example, click once in here and click the second one. The second click needs to be here. For example, this is a little bit off axis loaded. Let's create it again, something like this. And then for naming them, you need to double click on them, and then you can rename them. But for the horizontal line, for example, let's put it on A. Let me turn on the caps lock, and let's press A for it, and let's create our other horizontal line according to the first horizontal grid that we've created. Let me put on something like 5, and let's create multiple grids. You can see Revit will understand the naive convention, and it will create the other grids according to the first one that you've created. It's really great. And then, for example, let's say that we just want these grids, and these parts are additional, and this is ugly. So let's adjust the length of our grids very easily with this. It's same as levels, so you can apply those kind of things in here too. And you can, for example, select all of them and bring them, drag them in here to bring them at the middle of your working session. That's for the grid part. And in grids, you have different other options in draw panel too. You have a start and radius arc, and you have center ends arc. With the start and radius arc, you need to click on it, and then you will specify the start, you will specify the end, and then you can specify the radius of this grid that you want to create. And you can make them bigger too, or you can make them full circle too. This was the for start and radius. We have other one which is center and center radius. You just need to click on the center part of this one, and then you will specify the radius of it, and then you can specify how much of this arc that you want. If you want a full circle, just create a half circle and then select it and drag it at the end. Now you have a full circle grid line. The next option that we have in grid lines, which is a multi-segment grid line. It's for advanced or very rare grid lines. You can create some grid line like this very easily with this tool, and just click on finish, and then you have this kind of grid that it's not really common, but it's a rare option that you have. For grids, we have other options too, and you have all of the options for grids too. For example, the symbol is great, so I'm not going to change the symbol, but let's select one of them and let's create a duplicate from it. For example, let's name it TAT grid. Click on OK, and when we have a symbol, we have the center part. The center part, let me explain it to you. In grids, we have three parts or three segments. We have a center part in here, and we have two parts for our end and for our start of our grid. You can control the line style and the color of them separately for your grids. So when I'm talking about the center part of the grid, my point is here, and for the start and end is here. Okay, let's go back to the settings, and let's make them very easily in here. Let's change the settings in here. Click on edit type, and then here we have a center segment. For example, from continuous, you can put it on custom, and then you will have custom settings for the start and for the end of these grids very easily. But I don't want to make them complex right here. Just put it on continuous, and then you have the weights of these lines. For example, you can put it on 3. Click on apply, and then we have the patterns of them, and we have the color of them too. For example, let me put it on red again, and when I zoom in, you can see the weights of them, and you can see the red line of them too. But the color of these grid heads are it's controlled by the family of them. For example, you need to load a grid head family with the red line, so it's not gonna the color setting in here just gonna change the color of the grid line, not the grid head in here. That was for the grid parts, and the only tip that I need to say in here is, for example, sometimes this is something like this, and when you go to, for example, second floor, you can see any grid, or you can see part of your grid. The reason of it, because when you go to the elevation, you can see how your grids are below it, below the level that you've selected. So you need to select your grids and bring them up, and bring them upper than your highest level, and then you are good to go, and you can see all of your grids in all of your levels in here too. And I have another tip for here. For example, we've done the elbow thing in north elevation, and when we go, for example, to south elevation, this is not really pleasant, and we need to do all of those things in here too. But let me close these ones, and let's press WT to have a tile view. We have a setting in here to apply these changes to other appropriate views. To do that, you need to select your levels, and then in the modify panel, you have a propagate extents. Click on it, and it will tell you that you can apply the exact settings to south elevation 2. Click on it and it will make them same, and it will apply this change to the south elevation 2. And for the east and west, you need to do the same. For example, in east, it's not great, and you need to adjust these levels, and you need to give it a elbow in here, for example, something like this. And then let's open the west too. Let me bring the west in here, and then I want to propagate these elements and these settings in the west part too. This option is same for grids too. For example, if you have a elbow grid in here, if you want to apply these settings in here, you need to select your grid and propagate the extents of these grids in other elevations too. And it is same for your floor plans too. For example, if you have done something like in floor plans, you need to propagate it in other floor plans that you have. You can select all of them. To select all of them, select the first one and scroll down and hold on the shift and click another time, and then click on it, and it will select all of them, and it will propagate all of those shapes in all of the appropriate plans that we have. But let's check another one. For example, if I would change this, change the 4 again, let's go to the ground floor. As you can see, the force is not changed, so you need to do the propagate option any time that you change something. But the point in here, make sure you have finalized the first floor and then do the propagate to prevent from doing propagation multiple times. I hope you've enjoyed this session too. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel to help me to create more tutorials and more parts for this. And make sure to check the description links for useful links about the session, about the exercise file, and about the Telegram group that you can ask your questions. And I will see you on the next session.